Hello, Bereans. Our focus this month is labor. And by labor, I mean work, not works, where we talk about how this salvation is not of works, but of working, just the act of working. Many of us have a 9 to 5 or we work for ourselves. We're in partnership, we're entrepreneurs. And so today I want to talk about work in the Bible. And I've come upon a theme that made Jesus pretty contentious. And when you get to the bottom of the issue, it was usually around work. So we're in John chapter 5, and my reading is from the Big Baby today, the New Oxford Annotated Bible. This is the New Revised Standard Version. And chapter 5 of the Gospel according to John begins with a time stamp that we were at the Sabbath, and this is the story of the man by the pool, the man with the pool with the 5 porches. He'd been there for 38 years. Jesus says, "Do you want to be well?" He says, "I don't have anybody to put me in." And we go through all of this, and Jesus uh, tells him, "Stand up, take up your mat, and walk." And the man was made well. And the issue was all of this happened on the Sabbath. And the Jews in John chapter verse 10 say to the man who's now made whole, "It is the Sabbath. It is not lawful for you to carry your mat." And he says, "Well, the man who made me well said, 'Take up your bed and walk.' So I'm just following instructions." And we find in verse 16 of John 5 that the Jews started persecuting Jesus because he was doing such things on the Sabbath. And Jesus says to them, John 5, verse 17, "My Father is still working, and I also am working." And then the reason escalated. First, the Jews are mad because you're working on the Sabbath. This should be our true rest day, no labor at all. But now in verse 18, Jesus has, in their opinion, not only broken the Sabbath, but he was calling God his own Father, making himself equal with God. And so now they were seeking a reason to kill him. They moved from persecution, wanting to persecute him, to now wanting to kill him. And I wanted to bring this up because work is it's both a right and a privilege. Work is also an act of survival. It's what we do uh, on this earth day in and day out. If we are not, um, we always put some type of effort into something. And Proverbs chapter 14, verse 23, I think, one of the clauses says, "In all labor there's profit." So it's not that we're wasting our time working, but it's that we are working towards some desired outcome. We're working for profit, not necessarily for money, but maybe it's a hobby and we're working to produce something, to be satisfied with our own effort, without the pressure of garnering a paycheck. And I wanted to bring this account up because I want us to look at how Jesus was challenged. Uh, you have a system here that has a very clear understanding. On the Sabbath, we do not work. And so then we have to say, is the work of God a work? There are people who take issue with how ministry is done, where ministry is done, for whom ministry is done. And it comes back to the same thing. Work, it's like Jesus being persecuted for working on the Sabbath. And the question for us is, when it's time to work for God, are we going to do it? Are we going to do it if it's inconvenient for others? Are we going to do it if it makes others uncomfortable? Are we going to do it risking being persecuted for doing it? Are we willing to work on the Sabbath, if you will, Are we willing to take up this mantra like Jesus in John 5:17? My Father is still working, so I am also working. I take a lot of comfort from that verse. My first reaction was, oh my gosh, I can't believe this verse has been here all along. How have I missed it? But now that I know that it's there, John 5:17, I'm so inspired by that. The idea that God is still working. God is still working. We may set requirements for one another that we adhere to in terms of work and rest and balance and harmony. But God is still working. And we have another reference in scripture where it says he neither sleeps nor slumbers. And I find so much encouragement from that Jesus simply was, and I imagine it this way, that Jesus was like, hey, my Father is still working, I'm still working. So there's no off the clock for the work of God. There's no off duty for being available to the Lord. So that's the idea I wanted to present to us, that we don't have the privilege of being off even on the Sabbath. On the Sabbath, we're with God. God is always working. And so we have this opportunity to be with him all the time, to spend our time with him and to have fellowship with him, even in our rest times, even in our times of recreation and enjoyment. Uh, Something as simple as cleaning up a room, something as complex as a major project at work, something as difficult as an illness, something as simple as arts and crafts, whatever our thing is, whatever our hobby, whatever our 9 to 5, whatever we do to make money, God is always working. So I'm hoping we can take comfort from that even if people have an issue with how or when or what or where, and maybe they'll have evidence to say why this is inappropriate, or this is not a good thing to do, or you shouldn't have done that today, or you shouldn't have done it in this way, or you shouldn't have helped them. Whatever that is, I hope we will be determined to continue working on the Sabbath, that because we know God is still working, we can say like Jesus, I also am working. So take that thought and push forward in what you're doing, and be encouraged while you're doing it, even if you're doing it with little help or little support, even if you're doing it in the middle of a disaster, even if you're doing it whatever God has put in your hands to do, if you're doing it alone, if right now you're kind of like a John the Baptist, a voice in the wilderness preparing the way. I want to encourage us that God is still working. And because he's still working, we are also still working. God bless you. Until next time.